The Kumasi Circuit Court 2, presided over by Patricia Mponsa, has freed the 8 Delta Force members accused of storming the KMA court last month to forcibly free 13 of their colleagues on trial. They were charged for rescuing persons in lawful custody, resisting arrest, and disturbing court session. Now, Lava Firm's Kwesi Deborah Harbour reports the 8 were discharged because there wasn't enough evidence to pin the crime on them.
The accused persons who looked pensive in the dock are Abbas Caesar, Ebenezer Opoku, Samuel Yabua, and Kofi Fosu. The rest are Christian Anoche, Kwame Frimpong, Eric Kusi, and Abdul Suleiman Ododu. Prosecutor ACP Ochedako, however, told the court the police did not have enough evidence to support the charges leveled against the accused persons, and that the Attorney General's office had advised the charges against the 8 be withdrawn. Defense counsel Kankam Buadu said the decision vindicates the argument from the onset that their clients were not part of those who caused the disturbances at the KMA court. He describes the action against the 8 as face-saving exercise by the prosecutor and the entire police service.
We're interested in seeing that our clients are not punished for offenses they didn't commit. We maintained right from the onset that they had not committed any offense, and so we were patient and waited for the prosecution to, if there are any proofs or evidence, and they have concluded that there's no evidence. So it's more of a victory for the rule of law and the justice delivery system, and not necessarily a victory for us.
Chairman of Delta Force, Salou Musa, says he is happy government has allowed the rule of law to take its course. He announced their membership has almost doubled since the incident.
Say we a Jumama party, na party na bapawa, na wo form.
The party in power should be able to punish foot soldiers who flout the law, so others will know that the party works with the rule of law. This incident will not make us lose hope. In fact, our number has increased from 4,000 to 7,000 since the incident. The group has gained publicity from this incident, just as people have also realized that our party abides by the law.
More. And what did you say? Oh, near Ebayano. No more no a say Sene Equality and I send a MPP Muti, but now no beyond MPP Mudim Rane a year Juma.
Right, some residents of the Ashanti regional capital have been reacting to the discharge of the 8 men.
Court freed them because I don't think they do have enough evidence for that. And if they are free them, then it's the right to free them because they don't know whether they were the people who make that noise there. So I think they are right. They are doing the best thing. That's what.
Okay, concerning this issue, the issue it's very delicate. I don't know why the court should allow these people go. Because one, we have a constitution, the 1992 constitution, that takes up everything. This constitution is empowered by everyone, irrespective of your money or anything. So I just don't understand why they should allow these people go scot-free, even if it's your government or if it's your government in power. Why should this be? We shouldn't take this into consideration. We should jail them so that people know, say, oh, the constitution is working, everything is okay.
The Delta Force, maybe they've suffered for the party, so they should have also helped them. Though what they did wasn't right, but at least they did something for the party, so they should have also been in at least some position in the party. Maybe that's why they did that.
So you think it's right for the court to free them?
Not really, but if the courts were having some evidence, they should have jailed them. But they left them because they don't have any evidence to it. That's right.
Oh, at the end, the Delta Force need the phone, they need to move on. We need the Ghana day. Now, her government will be asked the Omoye in the Omoya, my say, Emreniha. So, say, Obiam Bonnie, and I say, Metrosican and Mokun. Many judges for no can come Julium 25 years because the Omoye and the Sunni Faso. Why by Abana and say, and no chase could do Quasia.
Well, the minority in Parliament is demanding the police rearrest and arraign before court the 8 members of the Delta Force group who were discharged on Wednesday. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu at a news conference a few hours ago said the decision to discharge the 8 undermines the independence of the judiciary.
We demand, therefore, that the councillor's discretion that has just been exercised will be reversed immediately, and the accused rearrested and rearranged before court. We do so demanding that justice must be done, and justice must be secured, and justice must be seen being done.
Haruna Idrisu claims the Attorney General's office bowed to partisan pressure in stopping the trial.
I find it very bizarre that the Attorney General, Ms. Gloria Akufu, who assured the entire citizen of her commitment to fairness and strict adherence to ethical principles, will claim that in doing this and exercising this constitutional discretion on grounds merely that there was lack of evidence. Lack of evidence. Even on Facebook, even on Twitter, and those of you who do social media, some evidence is available, and some evidence can be made available, and some evidence can be found. So we are encouraging them to gather good enough evidence. On the face of this action, the Ghanaian public was taken by some surprise. There was outright national condemnation of it, and therefore to say that they are proceeding on nulla prosequa in want of evidence can only be begging the issue and satisfying partisan considerations.
Well, Member of Parliament's Legal Affairs Committee, Roxing Dafiamepo, says the case is different from the Munche 3 episode that happened last year.
Properly arraigned before court, the matter was determined by a court of law. Sentence was pronounced. First, there was a conviction. They were convicted on their own pleas, and they were adequately sentenced. So, so once you are sentenced, it is finished.
But before that, we heard from you, the members on the minority side and the NDC, insisting that what they did wasn't that grievous and they should probably be allowed to go.
No, I don't think you heard that. All that the minority said that what they did was wrong, but the court should exercise restraint in sentencing. So they could have been maybe cautioned, it could have been bonded. The argument at the time hinged on the nature of the sentence to impose, but not that the court should not take a decision at all. No.
Well, the very latest we're getting on this case is that the Attorney General's office, which is said to have advised that the case against the Delta 8 be dropped, is denying knowledge of that. A statement from the Information Minister to that effect came through in the last 2 hours, and it reads, the Attorney General's Department is investigating circumstances under which a principal state attorney in Kumasi decided without recourse to advise from higher authority on a matter of high public interest of this nature to drop charges against persons arrested in connection with disturbances in a Kumasi Magistrates Court in April this year. Preliminary investigations suggest the decision was taken without recourse, even to the Director of Public Prosecution, and may amount to a breach of internal procedures on matters of this nature. While the department awaits the full results of this investigation, we would like to reiterate our commitment to ensuring that the rule of law is applied at all times and persons found culpable of any breaches that bring the work and commitment of the department into disrepute will be sanctioned and the appropriate remedies adopted in the interest of the Republic. And the statement is signed by the Information Minister. Now, there's more coming up on this particular story. It has to do with some twist and probably some explanation why the 8 had to be freed, or discharged rather. And we'll be bringing you those explanations after this break. Please stay tuned. All right, so there's been public uproar over the decision by Kumasi Court to free 8 members of the pro-MPP vigilante group Delta Force accused of storming a court to free 13 colleagues who were facing prosecution. The prosecution is said to have dropped the charges against the 8 on the advice of the Attorney General for lack of evidence. Now, the Attorney General has come back, or the Information Minister, the Attorney General through the Information Minister has come back to say that it did not give any such reason, or they did not give any such advice. Now, the reason assigned by the prosecution has, however, been described as absurd, considering there was camera phone footage on the court premise, shot on the court premises right after the incident, with some persons in the video cursing the judge. That notwithstanding, the prosecution, it turns out, could not produce evidence to successfully convict the 8. We're going to be showing you the supposed video evidence which was shared and widely circulated on social media at the time the incident happened. Now, joining us is learning the prosecution failed apparently because the 8 who were charged in the incident were indeed not the right suspects. And Raymond Aqua has joined me in the studio and is going to be highlighting that a bit more. So now you have a theory why you think that the police or the prosecution had no choice but to let the 8 go. Explain to us.
First and foremost, the only evidence that the prosecution was relying on was this video footage, i.e. the people who were held before the court ought to be necessarily on the video footage doing the things that they believe they did, which led to the 13 being freed.
All right. Now, this video footage is actually playing at the moment, and it's in slow motion, so it helps you to better identify the people who are in the, essentially, these are the people who are supposed to have been hauled before the court.
The reality is that none of the persons you see in this footage, which is supposed to be the main evidence submitted in court in support of this case, is actually the people that have been arrested. All the 8, none is actually in this video. So you cannot make a case when the only evidence you are relying on, prime evidence, the footage, doesn't have the people you are put before court. Indeed, we understand, and this particular issue came up in court, that the people were arrested far from the court as in boys, away from where the court premise was. The inclination the police gave us was that they got a tip of that these are people who came to cause the trouble. They were working together. Some were wearing clothing that suggested that they were part of the Delta Force. That is why they arrested them. But if your chief evidence is that of a footage which doesn't have the people you say are the people on the footage, or people are supposed to have caused something which nobody, including the police on the grounds, including the judge herself, are willing or testified in any way to suggest that they were the people who did the act, how could you have prosecuted the case?
Okay, so in effect, if the police had relied on this video evidence and gone to fetch the people, pick up the people shown in this footage, it probably would have made the prosecution case a lot better.
It would have actually, if not saying that these people did it, it could have led to the people who did it, who were on the blind spot of this video. But the people who were held before court, the 8 discharged today, none of them was on this particular video tape.
And it's interesting that the magistrate in question, who, they held insults at, allegedly held insults, as we heard in parts of the video, the magistrates wouldn't have been called to give evidence, or why would they let a case like that? You'd think that because it involves a magistrate, they would be a lot more diligent. The police would be a lot more diligent in going about this prosecution.
The understanding, obviously, we had was that they are taking this issue more serious than we thought. You do remember, there was a press conference by the Interior Minister, together with the Defense Minister, including the IGP, sensing and telling every other person out there that we are going after the people. It's in your own interest to report yourself, and we will do everything to ensure successful prosecution of this particular case. Ideally, all the people who were there, who are on the side of the state, who are not part of the Delta Force, could have been called in to testify. As of the time the case was dropped, these people were neither named as witnesses or in any way put in the dock to witness in this case.
All right, thank you very much, Raymond Akwa, with those details there. So you probably have some explanation as to why this probably would have happened. But the Attorney General, through the Information Ministry, has indicated that they did not give any such advice, that they did not have evidence to prosecute this case. And so they're actually investigating how this came about. And so we're looking at a situation where they probably may recall this case or get back to this case. Now, in other news, 8 suspected armed robbers have been arrested at a soup on Wednesday by the Central Regional Police Administration in one of Cape Coast suburbs noted for criminal activities. The 8 are believed to be part of a group of criminals engaged in robbing, stealing, drug peddling, and terrorizing residents of Cape Coast. Parading the suspects and the items retrieved from them, Regional Police Commander DCOP Nenyi Ampa-Benying warned other criminals in the region to surrender before it is too late. Richard Kojunakun has more.
The arrests of the 8 persons by the police in the central region is one out of the series of actions the new regional police commander is promising to activate to rid the street of criminals. Ensign has been tagged as a no-go area which harbors criminals and accommodate criminal activities. Many residents fear walking close to the police for fear of being robbed and harmed by suspected hoodlums. The police recovered stolen items from the hideout of these persons and picked weapons that were used by the suspects for their activities as well during its dawn swoop. The regional police commander DCOP Nenyi Ampa-Benying disclosed to the media the police under his watch will continue and sustain such swoops to bring relief to the residents of Cape Coast.
Swoops that are conducted upon intelligence. Right now, as I'm talking to you, I've received intelligence about some other places, not only in Cape Coast here, but throughout the region. So we have categorized them, and very soon we will attack in full force. The model of all swoops is going to come on in Cape Coast. We are drawing men from Kaswa, we are drawing men from Swedru, we shall also draw men from Mankesim, Elmina, and the Cape Coast Township. With the total strength of about 250 men, we will target about 7 outlets, intelligence places that we have gathered somewhere. And we will attack them simultaneously at the same time. The jumping of over the canoes, etc. But the criminals, they can jump over the canoes. If you see them as if they were monkeys, they jump into the sea. All this impede our attempt to apprehend them. However, we were able to arrest 8 of them. 8 of them, some of them with the wrappers of weed and cocaine and other things. And so we will put them before court. We are screening them. They are being screened. And we put them before court. That before I came here, the report I received was that Intini was no-go area and that I shouldn't try. But I, Reverend Ampa-Benying, I've entered into it, and I have captured 8 strong criminals, and I will enter again. I will disorganize them and destabilize their hideout. I'll make sure that I'll flush them out from Cape Coast.
The regional police commander Nenyi Ampa-Benying also wants residents to report all suspicious characters and all illegal activities and operations to the police administration for a swift action to be taken. Richard Kojunakun, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Now, the confirmation process to make Matinga being the district chief executive for Sunyani ended abruptly due to confusion just after counting of ballot papers. The headed to peaceful event turned violent and caused assembly members and other dignitaries to run for their dear lives when tear gas was fired by the police. Correspondent Nesta Kafia Joma, whose mobile phone got confiscated by one Faisal during the violence display, sent this report from Odumase.
The violent confrontation transpired in the presence of Bonahafo Regional Minister Kwekwa Somotrem, Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Obibwai, and the Bonahafo Regional Police Commander, DCOP Tachipuku. Some assembly members became suspicious and rushed to where the counting process was ongoing. The situation compelled armed police personnel to fire tear gas to disperse the assembly members. Military personnel present quickly intervened to bring the situation under control, but the Bonahafo Regional Minister, Kwekwa Somotrem, postponed the confirmation process indefinitely after condemning the violent confrontation. The nominee, Martin Obeng, did not gain the required 2/3 of votes. Out of the 54 assembly members who cast their votes, 35 of them voted for him, whilst 19 others voted to reject his nomination. Martin Obeng, who is physically challenged, needs just a single vote to get confirmed as the district chief executive of Sunyani West. Branhafo Regional Minister Kwekwa Somachreme, before voting, appealed to the assembly members to make history by confirming the nominee. Meanwhile, a group of people living with disability who were present to support the nominee expressed displeasure about the turn of events at a hurriedly organized news conference. Advocacy Officer of Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, Joshua Makabu, spoke for the group.
If I'm being discriminated and prevented from becoming a district chief executive because I'm a person with disability, how then do I become a partaker of the development of this country? I have no other option than to be left a spectator, not because I don't want to behave like a citizen, but the society has prevented me and left me in myself that I'm not able to contribute.
At the time of filing this report, Faisal, one of the bodyguards of the Branhafo Regional Minister who seized Joy News reporter's mobile phone, failed to return it. Mr. Kafra Jume's report for Joy News.
Right, so we're moving on to one other story that's been breaking in the last couple of hours. It involves 1 death and 3 injuries in a gas explosion in the northern regional capital. I have on the line regional correspondent Martina Bugre, and she's going to bring us updates on that. Hello, Martina. So tell us how this gas explosion occurred and where exactly this happened.
What I gather is that it happened around 11:30 this morning. And that's the Lamashegu industrial area. This area is where we have most mechanics who do this work. It's an enclave where we have a lot of mechanics. And so I'm told that the young man was fixing some car when the gas exploded. He worked with his master, and so the master was standing by and watching him while he was working when the incident happened. When I spoke to eyewitnesses, what they said was that they heard an explosion and suddenly the whole place went out with gas and smoke. It was difficult to see what was happening in there until the dust settled. Then they realized that somebody had most of the body torn into pieces and was cutted. And so they called in the ambulance, the police, and the fire service, and they sent the injured to the hospital. Upon arrival, we understand the young man lost his life, but his master and some few others are recuperating.
All right, so just to get some clarification on it, this does not involve like a gas filling station, but it involves...
Not at all.
Okay, so probably one cylinder, one welder with one cylinder working that somehow it accidentally exploded.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much, Martina Brugger, bringing us that update there about this gas explosion that occurred in the northern regional capital, Tamale. Incidentally, it coming at a time when the government is considering not allowing filling stations to fill these gas cylinders. We have that story coming up later on in the bulletin, but we're taking a break at this point. Still to come in the bulletin, the U.S. Embassy and the Electricity Company of Ghana. There's an interesting story going on there. The U.S. Embassy insists the Electricity Company of Ghana has failed to serve it bills for electricity it has consumed, despite claims by the company that the embassy does not owe. So stay tuned for that, but we have business coming up next.
Hello, welcome to Business on Joy News Prime. We begin from the oil and gas sector. In the country's second biggest oil field, the Trinidad in Ntumi 10, from August this year, will start exporting gas. This is one of several measures the company has instituted to make up for brief shutdowns of the Jubilee field this year. Group Chief Executive of Tullow, Paul McDad, disclosed this to Joy Business after Tullow Oil's investor meeting in Accra today. He asked that Tullow is looking forward to starting new explorations as soon as the maritime boundary ruling is given later this year.
Between Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, we are just awaiting the outcome of that discussion and the ITLOS process. But we're very confident that the governments of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, are seeking the best interests of both nations. And in the best interests of both nations, there's been a huge investment within TEN, and we want to maximise that investment for the owners of TEN. So I don't think we know any more than anyone else knows.
Maybe you're seeing the crystal ball.
ITLOS, as you know, ITLOS, the tribunal ITLOS is very transparent. And any discussions are posted on their website, so are very visible. So the good thing is we're able to see all of that information. But we are confident that we will be going back to drilling next year. I've been this week in Ghana and here in Accra meeting with the new government, and they reassure me that there'll be an appropriate resolution to the boundary dispute through ITLOS, and we'll be able to move forward.
How critical is this to the group in terms of getting past this thing and going ahead with your strategy and everything? Because I know that you do your own extrapolations and projections, and all these investors are also doing the same thing. How critical is the completion or the finalization of this in terms of the group's plan, strategy, and implementing all the things that you have planned to turn around the business?
I think what's, is it critical? Well, I think it's very important. I think what's important is that we've been a great champion for investment here in Ghana. Ghana is a great investment destination, and we want to portray it globally. We're a global player. We're out with global investors who watch our investments, and a big part of that investment is here in West Africa, and particularly in Ghana. So I think what's important to us is to be able to demonstrate that the investment that was made in TEN, we can get on and maximise the revenues from that investment.
Now, CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Council says a more stable economy is necessary prerequisite for attracting significant foreign direct investments into the country. The Chief Executive Officer of the GIPC, Yofi Guan, said this at the opening of the maiden edition of the China Trade Week in Accra.
It's the first time the China Trade Week has been held in Ghana. The two-day event seeks to facilitate trade between Ghana and China and give local businesses an opportunity to meet over 100 Chinese businessmen and Chinese manufacturers who are taking part at the fair. In a keynote address, the CEO for GIPC, Yofi Grant, reiterated the need to attract more investors.
What is almost critical is that because we haven't had capital formation in our country for so long, and we've had very strained economics, first of all, it's important to rectify the economic anomalies we have. And once we have a predictable, stable economy and we have investment, then it creates an opportunity for businesses to grow. Then we can also support our own indigenous businesses to grow. But we also need to learn the way things are done in the world. We don't have the strong technology, but we don't need to have. We can leapfrog. And that's why investment is important, because investment also brings capacity for learning. And so we learn, we understand how to do these things. And with time, when we've built enough capital ourselves, we'll be doing a lot of the things that others are doing now.
On her part, the Chinese ambassador to Ghana paid tribute to China's investment in Ghana, which continues to grow over the years.
Last year, China-Ghana trade volume registered nearly $6 billion, making Ghana the 7th largest trading partner of China in Africa. China's import from Ghana was $1.3 billion, and export to Ghana was $4.7 billion. China's non-financial direct investment inflows in Ghana hit $154 million. The value of China's newly signed contracts in Ghana reached $2.5 billion. All these figures come out in front among African countries. These achievements are not easy to make, especially in light of the sluggish recovery of world economy and some domestic economic challenges on both sides. But the achievements, reinforced by numerous landmark and game-changing projects aided or financed by Chinese government in Ghana, have vividly told us that China-Ghana economic relations boast high degree complementarity, extensive diversity, strong tenacity, and great potential.
China Trade Week Ghana is showcasing high-quality Chinese products from a variety of industries.
Now, the IMF has denied being the cause of Ghana's poor performance under the fund program. Some economists and even senior members in this administration have taken on the IMF for doing a poor job, resulting in current talks for an extension of the program. But the country representative to Ghana, Dr. Natalia Koliadina, disagrees.
Yes, we made very significant progress since we initiated the discussions under the fourth review during our April meeting. And now we much better understand the implications of the new policies presented by the government in the budget. We also welcome some of the measures that have already been implemented. For example, to give you one example is reducing the rigidities through the passing of the act on imposing a cap on earmarked revenues, for example. This is one example. At the same time, we still need to clarify some details on some other issues. And these are the issues like the debt of the state-owned enterprises, and also how the government is going to improve, what is going to be done to improve their financial viability.
In other news tonight, stakeholders in the telecoms industry are advocating extra awareness on data protection as Ghana joined the rest of the world mark International Telecoms Day today. This was at a seminar in Accra to mark the day. Now, Deputy Minister of Communications George Anda, in an interview, promised government's full support in the collection and protection of data for national development.
Technology is changing the way information is gathered, stored and assessed. Data collection and protection constitutes a significant part of development, which allows government agencies to make informed decisions based on the data accessible to them. Speaking at the sidelines of a symposium to celebrate the International Telecoms Day, Deputy Minister for Communications George Anda said government is doing all it can to put in place policies that will strengthen data collection, dissemination and protection processes to accelerate development.
As far as Ghana's consumption of data is concerned, on the continent we are relatively high. But yes, there's more room for improvement, and I'm sure that there are a number of principles that every government incoming, and if you look at this government, a number of things that we're looking at. The first thing is to make sure that we have the right infrastructure in place, and that's why you realize that as far as infrastructure is concerned, the fiber has been laid, the Eastern Corridor, the rings are there. You are also aware that we've issued the right kind of licenses, and it's moving to the step where we're driving the right policies, the right guidelines to make sure that the operators are conforming to what they have to do, the consumers are conforming to what they have to do, and to make sure that we deliver a right experience to make sure that the consumers are able to consume data as they want in the right way, to drive access, to drive affordability.
Mr. Anda urged all stakeholders, including the National Communication Authority, to endeavor to educate the public on the importance of data collection and protection systems.
The NCA has a role to play, the operators have a role to play, and then a session like this is also an opportunity to create the right level of awareness. And you realize that there was quite a lot of excitement as far as accessing data, as far as consuming data, as far as processing data, and even as far as data protection is concerned. So having sessions like this are one of the ways. But yes, the telcos need to make sure that they drive the right level of education, and of course the regulator needs needs to make sure that the regulator creates a right enabling environment for the operators and for the consumers to have a good ecosystem to be able to operate in.
This year's International Telecommunication Day is under the theme Big Data, Big Impact.
Again, is that not an abuse of my right?
And that's it for business. There's more news after this break.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, some LPG users have welcomed government's decision to ban outlets from refilling cylinders. The Energy Ministry is scheduled to roll out their new policy aimed at helping curb gas explosions at gas filling stations. Under the policy, cylinders filled with bottling plants will be available for pickup by individuals and organizations in exchange for their empty ones. But operators of the retailing plants are skeptical of the success of the policy, as Joy News found out on a visit to some stations.
Some of the customers, they won't understand to do the exchange because like at times my cylinder will be clean, someone's will be dirty, so the person will not understand to exchange with me.
And so you think there'll be a bit of chaos?
Yes, a lot of confusion. I think everyone should get a new cylinder so that whenever your gas finish, you're coming to fill a new one. The one that is here is new, and the one that you're holding to is new, so that it will not bring any confusion.
But that is not the concern of consumers, as most of them Joy News spoke to felt the move will come at great relief.
It's a good idea if you come, instead of joining a long queue, you come and there was maybe already filled cylinders that you can just pick and leave the place. It will be better and safety, because if there's any explosion, you will be affected. But when you come and the cylinders are already full, you pick your own and you go away. But I don't know about others, but for me, my opinion, all the cylinders are all the same. Because definitely when it finishes, you are going to bring it and you may not go with the same cylinder, you may exchange with another one. So I don't know about others, but for me it's the same.
I prefer to come and find a cylinder already full. Then I'll pick it and go home very soon.
So when you come and you are giving a cylinder that's not as neat as yours, will you pick it?
Yes.
You don't mind?
No, I don't mind. What I mind is the gas inside.
I prefer to have my own cylinder anytime I come to buy gas because I do not know the condition of the one already filled. If the policy is implemented, I will stop using gas and revert to cobalt usage.
Cylinder no be quite afford to be crowd.
My cylinder may even have a fault. So if I'm asked to exchange for another one, I will even be happy because I'm sure the operators will work on the cylinders to ensure safety before giving it out. So I will be very happy if this new policy is implemented.
This me banners ya felisi wada than the mamadia. Visa no better than media banocrano.
Well, the Ghana National Fire Service is backing the proposal to ban refilling of gas cylinders at LPG outlets. PRO of the service, Prince Billy Anaglate, said investigations by the fire service after explosions have shown strong linkages between handling of gas cylinders at LPG outlets and causes of explosions. Mr. Anaglate says even though the policy will not eliminate explosions entirely, it will go a long way to minimize such disasters. He was speaking on The Pulse.
Even the one that happened at Dansuma, it was even at the time of refilling of the tanks, the LPG tanks or the cylinders, that when those attendants were not properly having the facilities with their checklists to know what to do during the filling, that it happens. There have been few other situations that are related to the cylinders, the refilling of the cylinders. What the situation is that with the gas cylinders, every time that a cylinder is pressurized and the pressure in the cylinder, if you fail to give a vacuum at the top, there are times that people get in there, they ask that they should fill it to the brim. Those are some of the dangers that result to explosion, because If you fill the gas cylinder to the brim, and there is any shock to it, when the cylinder falls, the moment it falls, there's going to be an expansion on the cylinder, because if you don't have that vacuum where it could take control of the expansion, that is how the cylinder itself will get ruptured, because there is no space where it can expand to that level. That has resulted to some of the explosions that we have experienced. The more the cylinder is subjected to heating system, the liquid, when the gas is in the cylinder, it is in the liquid form. Then it begins to boil. The moment it begins to boil, it produces vapor. Then the vapor begins to expand. So it will expand to a certain level. If the heating process continues, the only thing you have is for it to explode. Where you fix the regulator, there is a rubber wash around that. So if you put the gas cylinder lying parallel, that is why every gas cylinder is supposed to be upright. So if it's lying parallel, the pressure that is exerted onto the fixing point can also definitely cause explosion. So there are 3 things that can cause cylinder explosion. That is if you have overfill it to the brim, or when it's subjected to excessive heat, or when it's not properly, stored, maybe probably in your storeroom where it is lying or under your bed. So those 3 things needs to be looked at if you want to prevent explosion on gas.
The Bureau of Public Safety is, however, insisting that for the policy to succeed, government must roll out plans for investment, stakeholder engagement, as well as training and reorientation for retailers. Executive Director of the Bureau, Nanaya Akwada, says the policy has a tendency to either drastically reduce gas explosions or lead to more of such disasters in the absence of a clear roadmap for implementation.
One would want to know what factors underpins this policy. One will want to know what kind of stakeholder engagement the state is going, or NPA is going to do. One would like to know what measures will be put in place for the retailers. What kind of storage systems are they going to run? What kind of training are they going to be given? And how, what kind of safety assurance and quality assurance systems are going to be in place? And how do they intend to recoup the cost associated with all of these? I'm assuming that all things being equal, if the government or the state is going to put in place a very solid safety assurance and a quality assurance team, if the government is going to ensure that at the retail level, appropriate structures are put in place in relation to both facilities and manpower, then we'll be sure that this is certainly a good policy. If it fails, if how the state has conducted itself with regulatory agencies, if that culture is translated into this system, then we are likely to see an escalation of, the incidence of gas explosions and so on, because then the people are going to begin to cry that we are waiting for government to bring this before we do that. It hasn't come, and so we are doing it anyhow. We are waiting for government to put in place this. If the government has not done it, and so we are finding our own ways to do it. But we are talking about gas, so I come to your place to pick a cylinder with assurance that this cylinder is either the same as mine or even much better than mine. And so those are the things that we want to see as an organization in order to give, a corporate okay.
Right, the Electricity Company of Ghana has been in the news these last few days over what the Energy Minister has described as inefficiencies at the state electricity distributor. Boakye Jaku told some journalists after a ceremony in Accra, ECG, among others, was a debt-piling entity that could not account for power supplied to it to distribute. It cited the case of the U.S. Embassy here in Accra, which has been trying to get the ECG to serve its bills for electricity used at its several installations. But the ECG, in a reaction to the story, said the U.S. Embassy does not owe. And I'll read the statement to you as it appears on the screen. Concerning the assertion that the U.S. Embassy demands bills and ECG has not been able to provide the embassy with bills is also very strange, because as far as we know to date, the U.S. Embassy does not owe ECG in terms of bills. So if they were not getting bills, would they have paid all their indebtedness till date? So this was an extract of a statement issued by the Electricity Company of Ghana, which is available on their website. Now, the U.S. Embassy has come back to react to that. In a series of Twitter posts, they indicated that the U.S. Embassy has not refused to pay any electricity bills. We've been asking for the electricity bills. Essentially, they go on. You're not seeing the full tweet, the full image of the tweets there. But we have also been speaking with the U.S. Embassy, and they've actually put some voice to it. We spoke to Sarah Steele of Public Affairs, and she's been reacting to what ECG has had to say.
Well, I want to be clear that the embassy has not refused to pay our electricity bills. We've been asking for official bills for our various embassy-managed properties, facilities for more than 2 years so that we can issue the correct payments. We have the funds set aside to pay for the electricity, and so we're just going to continue working with ECG to get the correct bills so we can pay.
So the understanding is that you haven't paid because you haven't received the correct bill.
Right. We've been asking for the bills from ECG, and so we're going to keep working with them to get those and pay the bills.
All right, so that's the story. The U.S. Embassy says it's willing to pay. The ECG says it doesn't owe. And I keep on asking myself, why doesn't that happen to me? For the ECG to tell me that I don't owe them. Well, we've been trying to get a reaction from the Electricity Company of Ghana. They tell us that they're putting together some reaction and that they will make it available to us as and when they're ready to respond to that. Now, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, formerly known as the Ridge Hospital, has been officially opened to the public. Though President Mahama commissioned the facility sometime in November last year, the hospital did not open its doors to the public until Wednesday. Speaking at the ceremony, Minister of Health Kuku Agyeman-Manu hinted President Akufo-Addo's government will secure funding soon to commence the second phase of the project. Joy News' Maxwell Agbagba was there and has come through this report.
Ridge Hospital was constructed sometime in the year 1929. It was supposed to cater for a smaller size of the population. With the population size increasing, the hospital had to overstretch its 191-bed facility. With the construction of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, that would be a thing of the past. Dr. Ralph Ama is the head of the surgical unit here at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital.
Well, our building was built in the colonial days, so it's not up to standard. But with this one, there are lots of things in there. The case previously was that we used to buy oxygen or outsource it from Air Liquide and other places. But this facility, everything has been done so that we don't have much difficulty with generation of power, oxygen and water. So that's what we have. It's generally a complete hospital running all by itself. So that's what we are happy about.
Now let's find out from the people who will be using this facility exactly how they feel about it.
3 weeks sister. In our agent. Yeah, and she in time private. Me le konin kalaya. Can feel ready, I can collect it. There you should come. Then they private. Can you lache? I feel operation. Back way by you should come. They are near Jue, Aloya Chumo, Jemme. Okay.
She's saying that she came here some few weeks ago, and then a relative is actually here. She went through a cesarean section, and because she's up here and there's no water here around this place, sometimes she'd have to come all the way down. Somebody who went through a cesarean section some few days ago would have to walk all the way down here, descend the staircase before she's able to access water. She says herself personally sometimes she would have to carry water here to this hospital because there's no water here. President Mahama officially commissioned the Greater Accra Regional Hospital sometime in November 2016, but the hospital did not open its doors to patients until today. Speaking at an official ceremony to operationalize the hospital, Health Minister Kweku Agyemang-Manu says government will secure funding to start the second phase of the project, which would add about 250 beds more to the existing 400 beds.
In line with the President Nana Akufo-Addo's vision of building on his predecessor's performance, his government will in the next few months commence the process of securing the appropriate funding to commence the construction of the phase 2 to achieve the full functionality of the envisaged development. This, however, is going to be a very huge task due to the current financial situation this nation has been plunged into.
Now, distribution of pesticides to spray about 2,000 hectares of farms invaded by fall armyworms has begun in the Ashanti region. It is the first consignment for all districts in the wake of widespread destruction of farms by the pest. Prince Apia has the details.
Fall armyworm invasion has been reported in about 10 countries in Africa, including Ghana, for over 10 months now. Though the fall armyworm season is expected to be over next month, long-term measures are required in affected countries. Almost 330,000 hectares of staple crops, especially maize, are under attack as the Ministry of Food and Agriculture takes steps to deal with it. 4 truckloads of pesticides have arrived in Ashanti region to tackle the spread of the fall armyworm. It is the first consignment of all districts in the wake of the widespread destruction of farms by the pest. Mr. Joseph Falong is Ashanti Regional Director of Agriculture.
Of course, it can be controlled using pests and insecticides. As of last week, the reported incidence was low, but it is beginning to grow. Nonetheless, we have received some chemical, thanks to the swift action from the ministry side in Accra. We've received, as of yesterday, we have received close to 4 truckfuls of pesticides, which we are distributing. I'm sure if you go out, you'll notice that the district directors are taking consignments out there for the spraying gangs that have been formed in the various districts to carry out the onslaught on the pests. Don't just look at the size of the trucks. The trucks that have come in with enough material to combat over 2,000 hectares. Yeah, but that is just the first onslaught. Yeah, as the situation goes on, we study the situation, we see if we may need more chemicals.
Mr. Falong tells Love Business spraying guns have been set up in all districts in Ashanti region to avoid further spread and complexities.
Every district has spraying guns. Based on the severity of the situation, the district assembly, don't forget, has a part to play in this. So the district directors have spraying guns out there, and the chemical is sprayed onto the farmers' fields through the spraying gun. We want to avoid a situation where the farmer picks the chemical and attempts to do the work himself. You know what the abuses can be, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. That is why we are not giving the chemical directly to the farmers. See, most of the farmers, some are good, and with just a little training may be able to carry out the exercise themselves. But there are a lot of precaution measures that we cannot just teach now, given the exigency of the situation. So we need to supervise the work ourselves to avoid hiccups subsequently.
For Joy News, Prince Apia.
The newly confirmed District Chief Executive for Afadjato South, Wisdom Senaja, says he will turn Afadjato South District into a tourism hub. He noted that the district, which is endowed with numerous tourist sites, including the Tafiatome Monkey Sanctuary in Mount Afadjato, has been underexploited. He thus promised to collaborate with all stakeholders to ensure all tourist centers in the area are developed to a befitting standard to attract more tourists, to build a strong socio-economic backbone for the area. Mr. Senaja was speaking to the media after he was approved as District Chief Executive for Afadjato South.
Mr. Senaja, who contested for the Afajato South parliamentary seat on the tickets of the New Patriotic Party in 2016, polled 24 of 32 votes to get the nod from assembly members to represent the president in the district. He emphasized his well-informed with the challenges in the district and promised to deliver on the government's development agenda in the district. He indicated that the district is well positioned to have a cassava, palm and fruits processing factories and appealed to investors to partner the assembly set up factories and the government's one district, one factory policy to create more jobs for the youth. Mr. Senaja also hinted of bringing on board the appropriate government agencies and traditional authorities to work towards a common goal of improving on the state of tourist sites in the district to improve socio-economic growth in the district.
It's a new district. It's fairly young. It's in its 5th year. The potentials are big. Opportunities are there. What we need to do now is to get everybody on board. I believe strongly, and I hope a lot more people will agree with me, that the politics is over. We are now in the era of policy. The agenda should be development.
The Member of Parliament for Afajato South, Angela Alowute, is also the immediate past DCE emphasized. She will work with Mr. Senator to serve the interests of the people despite their political affiliation.
The issue here is about Afajato South and Afajato South development only. So, being NDC and being MPP, DCE, all we are very determined to do is to make sure that the development of Afajato is the first and foremost thing that we will consider.
In a related development, Municipal Chief Executive nominee for Kpando Elvis Kwesi Jampo has been confirmed by assembly members. Mr. Jampo, who failed to garner the required 2/3 of total votes when he was first represented to the assembly, managed to poll 20 yes votes representing 71.4% of total votes. He promised to restore Kpando to its former glory by undertaking major development projects. 17 out of 25 MMDCEs nominated in the Volta region have been confirmed. 6 were rejected outright, while 2 stand a chance of being confirmed. Fred Kwame Asari's report for Joy News.
My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.
Is Joy News Prime.